Okay, so you should have already watched the videos about Paleolithic work in Africa and in South America. So now we're going to look at Asia and Australia. Um, this lecture is just a small sampler of Paleolithic works from all around the world. I want you to get an idea of the breadth of the locations, techniques, and subject matter, as well as see the connections and similarities between the different sites of prehistoric art. Okay? So there's many more examples of this work, and you'll see some of that when you get your mini research assignments and the discussions as well. Okay, so this is a painting, obviously, made with strokes of red ochre on the interior cave walls, and this is discovered in December of 2017, so pretty recently, by a local archaeologist named Bazran Burhan, who was at the time a PhD student at Australia's Griffith University. So he's local to Australia, not local to us here in Missouri. He led a small team to search the caves in South Sulawesi for traces of ancient human activity when he discovered the Newfound Pig art, this painting of a wild pig, at a site known as Liang Tedong. So just let's take a minute to appreciate this kind of charming painting, right? So it's kind of a handsome fella, huh? Look at this pig. I love this painting of this pig. He's a little bit of a chunker. He's a little bit chunky, as if we put him in an internet meme today, he would be called. Look at the textural details. He has this kind of rough, bristly fur. So they've really paid attention to depicting in a linear way with this mark making with this red ochre, that bristly kind of fur. Look at his face. He's got little warts on his face. It's really a pretty detailed rendering considering that it's 45,000 years old. Think about how old that is. What else do you notice? Look right above the pig. Hand stencils, right? Are those familiar? They should be. We just looked at them in South America. Very similar technique to the ones we saw from Argentina. Now, how do we explain that? How could people in completely different areas come up with the same technique? Is it purely coincidental? Were people just in different parts of the world saying, look at my hands, that would be a cool stencil. What if I blew some paint around that? Maybe. Is it evidence of Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious? Perhaps. Is it an artistic innovation or is it something that's just hardwired into us? We don't know. But what we do have is clear evidence and clear examples of the same hand stencil technique being used in completely different parts of the world that would have had no way of being in contact with each other, right? Because this is very old. Okay, let's jump up to China really quick. So this particular example is, it was a deer antler. It's a piece of antler fragment, and it was found in Langu Cave in Hebei, China. It's 13,000 years old. Look at the carvings on it. Now think back to the previous bit of lecture that you watched about Africa. If you look at these marks, they're kind of similar to the marks that are engraved on the ostrich eggs. So again, we don't know what this is for. Was it purely decorative? Was it an early attempt at writing or of recording, counting kind of the number of something? Was it meant to replicate a texture that was found in nature? We don't really know, but it's a very early 13,000-year-old example of sculptural relief carving. Okay, let's go down to Australia. This is one of my favorites. I think he's pretty cute, right? This macropod, along with some early paintings of human figures, was discovered by an archaeologist called Paul Tacon. This was among 570 different rock art works that range from 6,000 to 9,400 years old. They're strewn across about 87 different sites in northern Australia. And these discoveries are being called the Malwa figures and dubbed a new style of artwork and kind of a missing link in the history of Aboriginal art, which is pretty cool. This particular creature is called a Bilby. A Bilby is, that's B-I-L-B-Y. It's a small, long-eared nocturnal marsupial, and they're native to Australia and have never been depicted in known indigenous rock art previous to this discovery, which is cool, and also tells us something about the history of this creature, that it's been around for a long time. They're also not known to have lived in the prehistoric Arnhem Land, which is where this was found. It's an area in northern Australia, which suggests that the species range was once much wider than it is today. Okay, so the Malwa figures are quite large in scale. So this is from the same kind of general area as the Bilby that we were just looking at. Most of these are at least 2.5 feet tall, so they're pretty large paintings. Some of them are even life-size, like the size of actual people. They're painted with red outlines, and some examples have more detailed interior line work that looks fairly decorative. It's suggesting kind of hands of different artists, because some of them are more detailed than others. It's hard to say exactly how many we have. So this is a very early depiction of human figures, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so that's a very brief overview. We saw some things from Australia, some from Indonesia, some from China. There's lots and lots of examples of Paleolithic work in these regions. Okay, next we will look at cave painting and sculpture in Paleolithic Europe.